this wasn't a war fought over land or oil. This was a war fought over potatoes. And in this war, second place is not an option. The only acceptable outcome is total, unquestionable dominance. We're going to analyze the cold, hard logic of a military campaign applied to something, well, something some people might call absurd. They're wrong. This is the guiding philosophy, the core doctrine. Ruthless, efficient. The only thing that matters is output. And if you have a problem standing in the way of that output, you solve it. In a war for absolute victory, this isn't a suggestion, it's a command.
So, how did this all begin? With a laughably mundane task, farming a few potatoes to upgrade some armor. A basic logistical problem, really. But for a mind geared for total victory, a small objective is just a warm-up. The mission was never just about armor, it was about to escalate. So, an initial force of 20 minions was deployed. The initial output, 240,000 potatoes per day. Now, for your average player, that's it. Problem solved. But we're not talking about average players, are we? Victory isn't for normal people. 240,000, it was a pathetic start. And then, a glance at the global leaderboards changed everything. Self-sufficiency, that's a goal for the weak. Survival, that's temporary. The only thing that matters, the only permanent state, is total domination. The objective was clear. The decision made in an instant. The #1 position had to be taken, no matter the cost. But you don't win a war by charging blindly. Victory is impossible without intelligence. So, before escalating production, it was absolutely critical to analyze the primary threat. That's right, the player holding the #1 rank wasn't a competitor, he was a threat. And this was no longer about farming. This was now an information war. Sun Tzu. The classics are classic for a reason. To defeat an enemy, you have to dissect them, understand their methods, their production rates, their entire psychological profile. Some might call this investigative journalism. Let's be honest, a more accurate term would be tactical espionage. Every war needs a villain, an antagonist, a single figure whose very existence is an obstacle to victory. So, who was this person? Who dared to stand in the way of total potato supremacy? The target was identified, a user calling himself I'm_a Squid Kid. Thanks to his, let's call it, arrogance on the forums, we acquired 2 data points, 2 points of his potato count over time. And with 2 points, you can draw a line, calculate the slope, estimate his daily production. The math was simple, it was clear, and frankly, the numbers were deeply concerning. The intelligence revealed an infrastructure that was extensive. We're talking an irrational level of investment in max-level minions. This wasn't some hobbyist, no. This was someone who had abandoned all economic sense for one singular purpose: farming potatoes. A potato supervillain. Okay, a worthy adversary. So even after significant upgrades to our own operation, the math was infuriating. Our daily output was still just barely lower than the targets. We were pushing what we thought was peak capacity, and yet we were losing ground every single day. Unacceptable. And this was the truly grim part of the calculation, the deficit. The enemy had a head start of 7.5 million potatoes. Let that sink in. Even if we could magically build a superior farm overnight, it would take over 100 days just to break even. 100 days. Utterly unacceptable. When you're facing a deficit like that, you have 2 choices. You retreat or you escalate. There is no third option. We chose escalation. You see, people talk about the sunk cost fallacy. That's a fallacy for losers. When you win, it's just called investment. Profitability was irrelevant, completely off the table. We were authorizing upgrades that by any sane metric would never pay for themselves. But the currency of this war wasn't coins. It was rank, it was honor, it was glory. And you can't put those assets on a balance sheet. The infrastructure build-out had to be total. Step 1, the potato pyramid, designed for maximum minion efficiency under a single buffing crystal. Step 2, the deployment of minion expanders. Now, most players think these are useless. They sacrifice profit for a tiny 5% speed boost. We knew better. That 5% was critical, and it all culminated in this, the Potato Dome, a 5-story monument to industrial power.
In this war, every single percentage point mattered. And the result? 337,000 potatoes per day, the single most powerful potato farm in the entire game. A nice tactical victory, sure, but strategically, it was insufficient. Brute force production alone was not going to close that gap in time. The numbers just didn't work. We needed a new doctrine. And the new doctrine was beautifully simple. If you can't outproduce the enemy, you cripple his ability to produce. The war was about to shift. It was no longer a contest of industry. It was now a campaign of industrial sabotage and psychological operations. And just as the old master predicted, the opportunity to defeat the enemy was provided by the enemy himself. A detailed reconnaissance of his island revealed a critical design flaw, an amateur mistake really, and it was an opening we were going to exploit, without mercy. The flaw was almost embarrassingly simple. His minions placed just a little too close together. This created a glitch, a fatal one that would halt all production. But here's the kicker. It only happened when another player was physically present on his island. The solution was obvious. Deploy alternate accounts, occupy the island, maintain a constant 24/7 presence. We were about to shut down his entire factory without firing a single shot. Now, our friend Squid Kid, he started to notice these strange, silent observers on his island. He had no idea what their purpose was, but he knew they were always there, standing, watching. This creates confusion. It creates paranoia. These are key objectives in psychological warfare. The best part? He was being defeated, and he didn't even understand how. So let's recap the strategic situation. The enemy's production crippled. Our own maximized. The time had come for the final offensive, an overwhelming show of force. The goal wasn't just to erase his lead, it was to shatter his will to ever compete again. Every war has an ultimate weapon. Ours was the catalyst, a temporary fuel source that triples minion output, 300%. So while the enemy was offline or crippled by our 24/7 surveillance, our own farm would be operating at maximum overdrive. This wasn't just an advantage, this was the force multiplier that would end the war. In the final days, the numbers told the whole story. His lead had shrunk to a mere 3 million. Our catalyst-fueled operation, it was generating a staggering 893,000 potatoes a day. At this point, the math wasn't a threat anymore. It was a death sentence. His entire lead gone in less than 4 days. But victory isn't just about the numbers on a spreadsheet. The final act had to be personal. The plan was simple. Appear on his island, not as a silent saboteur, but as the victor. To walk up to him and inform him that the little sign he had, the one proudly proclaiming him #1 in potatoes, well, that it had the wrong number. A declaration of total, absolute victory. So the objective was achieved. The enemy? Broken. The war? Won. Every variable accounted for, every loose end tied up, except maybe for one. A new anomaly began appearing on the island. Another silent observer with no clear purpose. It just goes to show you, in the endless war for total domination, the next battle has probably already begun.